I'm Elyse the Archer, and this is how me and my papa skin a deer.
Yep, this is how we do it. You guys, 9 out of 10 of you that hunt these deer, if you're gonna, if you want to take them to the processor, that's fine. If you've got the money, but 9 out of 10 of you, when you shoot a deer, you're gonna hang it in the garage. It's gonna hang for a little while. We like to skin ours down. We like to get that meat cold, because even this carcass, we just shot this deer a little while ago and documented it. I can feel the heat coming out of that chest cavity. So we're gonna skin this thing down, and this is how we do it. I can process. You don't need these fancy tools. You don't need these carts to wheel them around. You don't need all this. You don't need to cut the legs all off. You don't need to lay them down, skin them down. I can do this whole deer with this knife, guaranteed. It's just straight edge buck knife, no fancy thing. We take, the first cuts I make is I'll cut right up the hind leg, right up to where we hung it, where you cut that, where that tendon is right there. And we peel it back, and then I'll bring the knife. A lot of times too, you gotta be a little ambidextrous. You gotta learn to cut a little bit with your right and left hand, but don't always cut your knife strokes. You don't always have to run them down. You can run them up, because like right here, I'm gonna roll that hide back, run that knife up. Then I'll come down. I'm gonna bring it all the way down the rib cage. Let it hang. And another thing. Come here, Elyse, stay over here. Yeah. The deer that you see processed on television, you ever notice there's nothing wrong with them? They're seemingly tranquilized maybe, and then they stop breathing. Well, our deer stop breathing when the 450 or the 350 projectile blasts its way through. And when it blasts its way through, I mean, this might be ugly to a lot of you, but this is what you'll have to deal with. Looks like that. So after we get this thing skinned down, I'm going to show you how we take care of that. Okay? But anyway, I'm going to skin this thing all the way down, and we make a cut the bottom of the leg, up by the knee, and then in like this on both sides. I'm going to skin this down.
Hey, Grandpa, can I try some? Even though I never tried before. Well, I've tried before.
Let's hold that out. I know you've probably seen video after video of how everybody cuts them down the back, and they rip them down. They rip them down.
No, I've only seen you.
But this is another thing where I'm gonna see how I got that knife, like a spoon. That way, I can cut. I'll cut. Now, where that tendon's at, the holes where you hung that, you want to make darn sure you don't cut that, because if you cut that, the leg comes down. Let's see how I roll that with my hand, and I can actually feel where I'm cutting. See how I'm cutting right around that? Then you can do a little pulling, but I don't like to pull when they're this fresh, because you can tear a lot of the meat. But I'll bring that right on around. And you can cut holes, because we're not saving this hide. You can cut finger holes in there and pull down on it. Look at the fat. Look at the fat on that deer, huh? And this fat will come off so much easier when these deer are warm. And I'll do the same thing as this side. See how I'm gonna hold that knife? I'm gonna bring that knife right up. I go right where that tendon's at. I'll go right around that leg. Give her a little pull, not much. You don't, there's just, I cut a little meat. Oh, darn. The deer's dead. You're not going to hurt it. You get to the tail, you can take any old, that old knife there. Probably spent 25 cents at a garage sale on that. Cut right down to the bone. Couple whacks. And now if you want, you can give it a little pull. If you want. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that fat. Now I'm gonna see how look at how that just falls off there. You let this thing hang for a couple days, it's a whole different ball game. So I'm gonna skin this thing. I'm gonna
But
take
in one night, it goes down like this.
Yeah. See, now if I was, you're gonna mount this. That's a whole other video. All right. As long as I got it down this far, make processing a whole lot easier. You take that fat off there. And believe me, after this deer hangs for a couple days, you won't cut this fat off this easy. Look at that.
It is rock solid.
If this was a buck, he'd have no fat on him, and he'd look like he'd just been beat with a ball bat. I don't know how they make it through the winter. They go into the winter in the worst physical shape that they can be. This meat will cool off 10 times quicker. As you can see, I made a perfect shot on it, but this is the kind of devastation that you're going to have to deal with on a lot of these deer. If this is too icky for you or you can't handle it, take it, get it processed. But, you know, that's up to you. We like the gratification of processing and taking care of our own game. In a case like this, there's no saving that leg. So I'm just going to cut.
Are you cutting the leg off?
Yep. Yep, because it's blown right in half. This side pretty much is toast.
Yeah, when we found this deer, its leg was straight.
Cut that off.
This deer was
Now,
a river.
what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this leg off, which
I'm confused.
there's
A
no
different deer.
there's no bone that holds front leg on.
That's this.
But you poke a little hole in there somewhere in that meat, and you run that knife right up through there,
Let's stand back. Because you're running the knife.
and that leg will come right off. And as you can see, there's not a lot left of it. This leg, I'll do the same thing. I get right under it. I'm gonna cut a little hole in it, so I got a finger hole. You just follow it up. There's no bone holding it on. There's a little meat left on this one, so I'm gonna put this one over on the step ladder.
Don't mind that
Now,
paint stuff.
all that gunshot damage, what you want to do, just start following down your rib cage. There's nothing on this, there's nothing on that you want. This may look good here, but that's what you're going to be eating. And believe me, you take this deer in to get them processed, you'd be surprised what you're actually eating. This side, same thing. I'm gonna just take that. Come over on the other side of this. I'm gonna take that right to the bone. There's nothing scientific about it. But I'm gonna cut all that damage and nasty off there. And if you take these in to get them processed, a lot of these guys, look at that hole. Look at the hole in that deer, would you?
Can I just stick my knee through
Hang on.
to show them the resemblance?
Yep, let me get it cleaned up a little bit more.
Okay. Look at the resemblance of how big this hole is.
Oh, another thing. If if this isn't your cup of tea, I have literally gutted hundreds, I can almost say thousands of deer that I've seen many a man drop to his knees gagging and puking because they can't handle it. Do not be embarrassed. It's something that you don't do every day, and it might get to you, it might not. But I have literally, I've had to gut people's deer, and there's no embarrassment, there's no nothing, because I get it. But same with processing deer. If it's not your cup of tea, don't do it. I've been hunting for 53 years, and I've cut thousands of deer, literally. I used to cut meat, and yeah.
But how many?